The Map by Ruba Qewar. Chapter 4 World Fundamentalism. The Unseen Practices. Christian people groups in the Islamic societies. In the 34th Christian Conference in October of 1998, John Travis presented a very important article which most Christian missionaries still use while working among the Islamic society to identify the Christian people groups who live among the Muslims. He called his scale the C1 to C6 spectrum, a practical tool for defining 6 types of Christ-centered communities, C, found in the Muslim contexts. It is a practical way to identify 6 types of the Christian communities that exist in the Islamic society. Travis explained it as the following. The 6 types are different from each other by language, culture, way of worship, and the limits of the freedom with others, in addition to their religious identity. This study gathers the varieties of the Christian communities in the Islamic world according to race, history, traditions, language, and culture. The purpose of these studies are to help the church planters and Christians from Islamic background to be aware and target the Christian communities, and to textualize the cultural theology of the church. All these 6 types are currently in existence in some places throughout the Islamic world. The 6 types of Christians are C1. Christians are foreign in culture and language. The church reflects the Western church and causes a great gap between the church and the indigenous people. These type of the churches are surrounded by the Islamic society. Christians from Muslim backgrounds can be found in Church C1 and they call themselves Christians. Example, Catholic Church in Algeria. C1. Christians are foreign in culture but speak the national language. It is similar to C1 churches, except via the language. Although they speak the local language, it has a different Christian terminology. In order to distinguish between Christianity and Islam, the cultural gap between Muslims and Christians in C2 is bigger than C1. They call themselves Christians. Example, the Protestant Christian churches in Jordan, Egypt, Lebanon, and Syria. C3. Christians speak the national language, implements non-Islamic cultural elements, e.g. clothing, diet, arts. The church may use the cultural clothing and art, but without any religious symbols. The aim is trying to contextualize the church in its culture. The people may also gather in a church building. The Christians from Islamic backgrounds call themselves Muslims. Example, Protestant churches in the African villages. C4. Christians speak the national language, use biblically acceptable Islamic practices, e.g. praise in prostration, etc. It is very similar to C3, however, it is permitted to use some of the Islamic practices as long as it does not contradict with the Christian doctrine, such as raising the hands while praying, keeping the fast, avoiding eating pork or drink alcohol, or having pets such as dogs, in addition to wearing Islamic clothing. We find that the societies of C1 and C2 avoid doing such things. The Christians of C4 consider themselves followers of Christ. Example, Iraqi refugee churches in the US. C5. Muslim Christians who accepted Jesus Christ as a Savior. These Christians stay legally in their Muslim society. They are very close to the Jewish Christianization movement. They refuse some of the Islamic practices which contradict with the teachings of the Bible, or by reinterpreting the scriptures if possible. The Islamic practices may differ from one person to another or from one group to another. Christian converts of C5 gather with Christians regularly, and they call Muslims to accept the gospel. If a whole village accepts the message of Christianity, then Christian mosques may be established. The Muslim society views the Christians of C5 as Muslims who follow Jesus Christ. Example, indigenous churches in Morocco and Algeria. C6. Christians are secret believers, having not made their faith public. This kind of Christians suffer severe persecution by the law of the country. C6. Christians worship Jesus in secret and with isolation from the surroundings society. The Muslim society sees them as Muslim because they do not announce their Christianity. Example, Saudi Arabian Christian converts in Saudi Arabia. Don Macri said in his article, "It is time for new areas that the Christian tradition used to reject the Christian converts culture that comes from a Muslim background and forces him to accept the Western Christian culture. The operation of uprooting the Muslim and converting him may not be effective among the Muslims. This is not mentioned without discussing the resistance and misunderstanding of the Christians to the Muslims. From the history of the Church and Christian missionaries, Christians see that it is better to uproot the Muslim from their social and cultural environment, because they see that the Islamic culture is evil and must be pushed away.